iRacing. We're in the game.
Gentlemen, start your engine!
JS Racing. We're in.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Super Formula 23 B Open Series right here live on VSPEED. Brought to you in part by Graham Crackers Racing. No matter if you're searching for speed or a place to race, you found it. Stop by the Graham Crackers Racing Discord server where everybody is welcome. Looking for a team? You're in luck. We are actively recruiting for both of our Super Formula 23 and NASCAR teams. Join by using a link in the description below, and while you're there, don't forget to check out Race Ready 3D's link as well. All thanks to the partnership with SimRacingNation.com for making all this possible for us here on VSPEED. I'm your host, Logan Threlkeld, and of course, in the production truck as our co-host, Bradley Cooper, with cameras provided by Dougie Beard. And we have made our way down to South America, Sao Paulo, Brazil, for Interlagos here today. It is a fantastic track, a very hard track though. 15 corners here with a lot of elevation change, and it's a lot of mid-corner elevation change in this 2.67 mile circuit. Opened up May 12th of 1940. Interlagos has been around in a pinnacle of the racing community for years. A quick look at your point standings coming into tonight's event. James Byrne taking the top step here with 1,127 points, 13 wins so far in the 6-week season. Dan Yang, Dennis Branch, Rohan Sanir, Timothy Larson making up the top 5. Tobias Gerber, Victor Odd, Yaroslav Posneshnikov in 8th. And Philippe Silva with Brett Greaves making up the back half of the top 10. Looks like we're already ready to take the grid. Bradley, what do you say we dive right into it? With JT Smeaton taking the pole for today's race, James Byrne will start in P2. Behind them, Jack David Spickett in P3 with Adam Merchant taking P4. Timothy Larson starting out in 5th next to Lucas Hand in the 6th machine in 6th. Felipe Silva starting out in 7th with Rohan Sanir in P8. I M Keeman in 9th and then 10th. It'll be Daniel Radmilkovic. And we're going to go ahead and let the grid run through, but we're green flag racing at Interlagos here, starting out lap number 1. It's a sprint down to turn number 1, a hard braking zone.
Already.
Blake blocking up already. Off into the grass. I believe that's I M Keeman in the 10. And another one spinning down at the bottom of the hill.
Yeah,
That'll be Jack David Spickett there.
Keeman went off the track with contact. Already a rough start.
A lot of issues here early on. As you can see, a very foggy afternoon here in Brazil, but no rain in the forecast. The wet tires are still optional. 28 laps on the board for us today. Local cautions only, and of course the open setup for these drivers to fine-tune these high-performance machines to their liking. JT Smeaton set the pole, and he's worked his way around the track here, coming through sector number 2 at the current moment. Looking to enter sector 3. He'll be looking for that first lap lead of the event. Adam Merchant gaining 2 positions after the drop of the green flag, up to P2 now, with James Byrne losing 1 spot, but holds on to a top 3 as we complete lap number 1. Screaming down the front stretch. It'll be about 185 miles an hour into the braking zone for turn number 1. And this sector right here is a very flowy kind of position here on the track, but sector number 2 immediately turns everything into technicality. Another quick straightaway here before turn number 4. And from 4 all the way to the exit of turn 11 will be sector 2. We'll see what kind of lap times we can get here as we're finally up to full speed around. In the practice session, I was seeing multiple drivers into the 115 bracket. I would expect to see some of these top split drivers down into the 114s, possibly even 113s once we get to the end of this race and burning off what is remaining of the OTS.
Watching these guys right now, it's all downhill. And that's the part of this racetrack that makes it so difficult, is most of that half of the track is downhill. It's a little bit more difficult to get your brake points because your climb and your ascend are 2 different things. When you're climbing uphill, it's a lot easier to just kind of lift off the throttle versus now you're fighting the weight of the car, and the aerodynamics come into play a little less in the downhill situation.
As we complete our first full speed lap, we are immediately into the 115 second range, 115.457 for JT Smeaton. Adam Merchant able to collect about 2/10, or 2/100ths rather, to JT Smeaton of 115.438. I tell you what, Bradley, I did my typical spend a little bit of time in a practice session, and this is by far the most difficult track that I was ever trying to turn laps at in these cars. A big slide behind. Merchant goes around out of P2, and he's going to drop back to the back half of the top 10, battling for that 9th position with Felipe Silva. Side by side, Merchant will get the nose just ahead, but has to blow it up as we dive down into turn number 8. A quick switch back to turn number 9.
He's locked up the front end.
That is a difficult spot. I apologize. That was turn number 8 that Merchant did go around in. Able to collect it back together. Side by side with Silva. No contact made in a single car incident.
It was a rumble strip. He got it on the left side of it, and it's okay to put 4 tires on it, but if you go off the other side, it's going to pull you off the racetrack. So he fought the wheel, and the wheel won.
About 6 seconds lost there for the number 19 machine. So not ideal early on in the race, but you'd much rather have that happen early on and have time to recover. Just the passing effort that it will take to get around some of these drivers ahead of you. It is a very narrow track, as you can see off the back of the 15 machine, currently running in 11th. A lot of steering input right there into turn number 10. Apologies, that was turn 8. I'm getting those corners mixed up. That sector is it's very hard to identify from an onboard view if you have very minimal time spent on the track. Another short straightaway here out of turn 11 into sector 3, turn 12. A tight left-hander back up the hill, and it's full throttle from here. As we'll see, that overtake button has been pressed. Will we see a pass working down the front straight to the outside? Gets the nose ahead, but it's going to be a battle back down the hill side by side with Ranson. Finally, Daniel gets around the number 13 machine. Safe and clear for now.
Another overtake there. Looked like Victor Odd was going to take a pass there and then quickly defended by Ranson. Again, this is middle of the pack. This is where we usually see the most action. Close battle, though. Fries Larson is actually catching up to James Byrne. and unusual here. We've seen Larson dominate the beginning of these races, gets out front, pulls away. We're seeing Smeaton do that here today. Clean air. That's all I can say. It seems like clean air is where you want to be early in these races, and it seems to be very difficult to catch the driver that gets out front early.
Of course, Larson starting a little bit further back in the pack than what we typically see. It's normally on the front row, or at least in the second row, starting in P5 today. So a little bit of work to do immediately as those lights went out. Dan Yang has been able to put together a phenomenal start, up 6 positions from 13th to 7th so far. The battle's still fierce.
Wow.
Just behind the top 10. Brett Greaves, Victor Odd, side by side down into turn 1. Greaves will get around. Ludwig Ranson gets around Victor Odd here as well.
Oh, contact.
Oh, contact.
That was a heavy hit to the wall. I'm surprised that car doesn't have damage. It was Ludwig Ranson that clipped the wall there, and I'm not sure if Greaves moved him there, but they're battling hard here for 11th.
Just behind them, a slurry of race cars ready to get around both of these drivers, both wide on corner exit of turn number 7.
Almost contact again there with Victor Odd. Hard to cut you off there, Logan, but man, that was close.
It's one thing we always talk about here, Bradley, is no matter where you're at, you're going to find a battle somewhere throughout the field. Right now, that battle just outside of the top 10. Taking it back on the VSPEED instant replay. There's that push back down to the inside of the track. Slight contact there with the wall. Take an onboard look here with Brett Greaves. Man, no, there's just no room for error here. Just tried to keep it right in front and barely had any sort of room to try to thread that needle. Got very lucky there.
They're still going at it. They're almost 3 wide here down this straightaway.
Had a look at it there momentarily. Wide out of turn number 3. Or apologize, turn number 4. Still behind on these corners.
This is Victor Odd that went off wide there. He's been having some handling issues. He's lost a couple positions. Fell back to 12th. Was up there fighting for the 10th spot and has since bled off a lot of time. And I'm not sure if maybe he picked up a little bit of damage at some point, maybe from some contact. We know how frail these cars can be. But
well, the track limits, too, will be a big factor here as well. We just saw that off track there out of turn number 4. And there's a small grass patch there in the middle of the corner. It's all concrete to the outside of it. If you stay out wide of that grass patch, you will get a black flag slowdown that's equivalent to about 1.5 seconds. But if you cut it back across before or in the grass, it's much less, if not non-existent. As you see right there, the look at it as we take another look back at our race leader, JT Smeaton. But it's the grass also poses the issue of spinning those rear tires if you're not careful on the throttle trying to rejoin the track surface. But you certainly don't want to have to give up 1.5 seconds if you go further wide of that.
So I'm watching these times now. Smeaton is actually a little bit faster than Larson. 1:15.274. With Larson of 1:15.932. So I wonder if Larson is maybe saving the tires for the second half of this race. He's notorious for saving everything he has for the last 3 or 4 laps. Wouldn't be surprised if you start to see that interval on the left-hand side come down. This time around it does.
Smeaton still faster, though, at 1:15.193. Larson at 1:15.278. Larson does have a fast lap time of a 15.204, so he knows where the pace can be found. And, you know, the saving idea, I like that thought process, but something to keep in mind is we typically see Larson save all of that push-to-pass as well. He's already burned 44 seconds of the push-to-pass here in the first 9 laps.
Yeah, he's used the most here in this top 3. That makes me wonder if he's playing catch up right now or if he's got something in his back pocket. Smeaton has no reason to really push the issue and can just kind of set his pace. Watching the lap times, they're pretty much identical. So if Larson's using OTS and Smeaton hasn't used any, no reason to push it right now.
They calm, cool, and collected up there with a 2.7 second lead over Timothy Freeze Larson. A 3.3 second lead over third place James Byrne. And it just gradually grows about a second or a half second per car back through the field. You'd have to think that Smeaton will eventually come across some sort of lap traffic here. As Gerhard Rowett's currently being scored the last car on the lead lap, the number 16, 19 and a half seconds behind JT Smeaton. So about a minute of time to gain for the number 3. The very kind of focused on whether or not there's any more incidents here on the track. We've got a lot of separation between our racers now. Rohan Sanier, the closest battle with Lucas Hand, right inside the top 5. This will be the battle for P4, separated by about a half second right now. A little bit further back, we've got a 3-car tandem between the 15 of Daniel Radmilovic, Ludwig Ranson, and Victor Odd. All 3 of those drivers separated by about a half a second, a little over. Those battles through the field essentially will slow you down as well.
And we saw that with Victor Odd. He lost a ton of ground getting battled with the 12 of Greaves. He's actually fallen back to 15th, so some problems here. Maybe damage where he clipped the wall a moment ago. Tavares also lost a ton of ground. Victor Odd's back in 12th. As these guys get racing side by side, as we're going to see it again right here, you can see the gap. It's 4.2 seconds to 9th position of Silva.
Larson did close that gap to Smeaton by about 0.2 of a second, but burned another 31 seconds of the OTS, down to 125 remaining at the front of the field. Smeaton still has yet to activate that push-to-pass button. Side by side, though, Ranson, Radmilovic. 15 falls back in line, takes a little bit more of a shallow entry into turn number 10. Victor Odd right there ready to attack. Valerio Tavares also in the equation, followed up by Jack Spickett.
Yeah, we got 5 cars for racing for 11th in their 10th position right now.
And Spickett, of course, one of those cars on the first lap that had some contact and spun around at the bottom of the hill there in turn 3. Great recovery effort coming from the 19. Odd is going to get the nose ahead of Radmilovic. Back across the start-finish line, Victor Odd holds on to P11 for the time being. Will he have enough speed to attack Ludwig Ranson here?
Well, that settles that. Too foggy.
Visibility level not the best here today. Try to keep the cameras as close to the ground as possible, get you the best visibility that we can. But fog heavily plaguing the track here in Sao Paulo.
Still side by side back here for the 13th position. And a car out wide there ends up losing position. Reeves going to get to the inside. That was Radmilovic. 15 ends up losing one spot, still struggling to keep ahead of Greaves. Gonna go at it again.
Get towards the front. It looks like James Byrne is starting the attack on Timothy Freeze Larson. Rohan Sanier and Lucas Hand swap positions down into turn 1. Sanier up to 4th. Got a good dive to the inside on the number 6 of Hand. Byrne got about 1/10 of a second away from Larson coming down the front straight. That gap has since grown back up to about 0.4 of a second. Lucas Hand staying extremely close to Rohan Sanier just behind that. He'll have an opportunity as Rohan Sanier, a little bit of a connection issue there for the number 5. So Handel had to play his cards just right.
Yeah,
He's going to get an opportunity.
I'm seeing these session events here, Logan, and I don't know if you have that or not, but I see off track, off track, off track for everybody in this field. Everybody's cutting the same corner.
You have to keep in mind that that black flag can wave on you. I believe it is 16 incident points before you have a drive-through penalty. So keep in mind that you don't want to cut that too many times. A 28-lap race will certainly put you over that limit. This track is so easy to do that at as well. So we come around starting lap number 14 right at the halfway point here. The battle's not really subsiding by any means either. Typically we have a lot more gap between cars throughout the entire field. Still on your screen is James Byrne and Timothy Fries-Larson, the battle for P2. Rohan Sneer about 3.5 seconds back behind this. Lucas Hand still staying within that 0.2 of a second behind Sneer. Brett Greaves has had issues. Greaves off track now. Heavy damage to the nose of the 12. Both wheels completely
wide battle. That's what did it right there.
Oh, contact and jumps over the car in front of him. Offset green wide, tries to come back out and maximize that corner entry into turn number 4. Greaves goes for a ride of a lifetime. Super Formula car thought it was an airplane for a split second. Great view here with the slow-mo. Man, that is a heavy hit. It looked like it was the landing that actually broke the left front on the 12. As soon as he hits the sand trap, that nose completely disconnects. So Brett Greaves will be our first retiree of today's event. Likely the car that made contact too will have to make a stop into pit lane, get some damage repaired. Victor Odd, in the meantime, gets around for the 11th position, just past Jack Spickett.
I don't know, Logan. I mean, I'm starting to worry here. I'm wondering if Larson has anything for Smeaton. It seems like Smeaton is just kind of toying with that cushion of 2.5 seconds. It hasn't went below that.
Ludwig Ranson picks up a black flag here. The 13 now off track and heavily damaged as well. The back half of the car completely destroyed, the exact opposite there of Brett Greaves. We'll take a look back here on the VSPEED instant replay. Looks to be a single car incident into the wall. There's the loose condition, spins it around. Oh, contact there. Very lucky number 14 of Victor Odd. That front right was disconnected there, split second. Luckily, the iRacing overlords helped him out right there. Ranson, retiree number 2 here on lap 16. Normally you see the heavy damaged race cars on the first 1 or 2 laps as everybody's still bunched together. Fortunate outcome for the 13. Quick update back at the front of the field. JT Smeaton has held on to his 2.3 second lead over Timothy Fries-Larson as he comes across the line here to start lap number 17. A lot of breathing room for the 3 at the current moment. Still 75 seconds separated on the OTS between Smeaton and Larson in favor of the 3. James Byrne still applying pressure to Timothy Fries-Larson as well. Staying right there.
Yeah, I think Larson might not be able to catch up to Smeaton. That's what I was mentioning there just before we had the off track and the incident with Ranson. But based off the push to pass the OTS, I don't think that Larson's got the car to beat that we've seen the last 2 weeks. Right now, Smeaton in the clean air, he's maintained. Now, last time by, Larson did run about half, maybe 2/10, 10.5 there. Faster. I don't think that's going to stay consistent. I think Larson's going to run out of the OTS before he can catch up to him.
Well, Larson hasn't activated the OTS in about 5 or 6 laps now. But I'm with you. Having that 75-second deficit will not be very beneficial, but both drivers here in second and third place dropping that lap time. Larson this time by with a 1:14.887. JT Smeaton finally joins the 1:14 bracket with a 1:14.990. But James Byrne doing a great job staying right behind Larson. His fastest lap so far, also in the 14s with a .946. So 3 drivers up in the top 3, the only 3 in the field that have dropped it down below the 1:15-second bracket. So there's a lot of speed up here. It's going to come down to minimizing the mistakes on the track. I think there's still a lot of time left at play for Larson to mount that attack. But Smeaton still having those 200 seconds of OTS available, I think he'll be able to defend it very, very well. If James Byrne keeps the pressure applied, that's only going to hinder that number 1 machine. We have about 10 laps to go here before we settle this one out. Coming around to start lap number 19 is JT Smeaton. Making that final corner exit of turn 15, the slight left-hand bend coming back up the hill where it flattens back out. But you can see a lot of that elevation change, some banking in some of these corners as well. Typically see too much bank curves on these road course circuits. As we take a look on board with Dan Yang, working our way down through sector 1. I'd like to stay on board with Yang here through at least a good majority of sector 2 from turn 4 through at least turn number 9.
All downhill for the most part as you work your way to the middle of this racetrack. And look at the handful. These guys touching the grass, getting that off track. Very technical part.
Technical indeed, is a massive battle at the back half of the field. Gerhard Rowitz, Logan Edwards, and Daniel Radmilovic has gone off track. So another retiree of the race, at 15, picking up that meatball flag after taking off the front wheels. A heavy hit to the inside wall. TS activated down into turn 4. Oh, there's that just a little bit of rear tire slip.
Some rumble strips getting these guys.
It's so close between turns 4 and turns 5 on that inside wall. So retiree number 3 of the race here on lap 20.
Pressure's on now.
Adam Merchant also applying some pressure to Dan Yang back for the 7th position. Still 2.1 seconds separating Smeaton and Larson for that number 1 spot. Lucas Hand was able to get back around Rohan Sneer and reclaim that 4th position. Keeping my eye on this battle at the back half of the top 10. Go ahead, Bradley.
Seems like Larson a little bit faster in the second half of this racetrack than James Byrne, who's going to gain a 10th or 2 here in the first 4 or 5 turns. And then Larson gains it all back. Every time they cross the line, it goes back to about half a second. If Byrne could figure out the line through that speed section where they have those 3 corners before the straightaway, he would probably have a chance to overtake. But I don't know if he's just not getting a good exit on that second or third to last corner to set up that long straightaway.
does seem to be hindering the number one machine in certain sectors, but that time is slowly still coming down, about a tenth of a second per lap, but that's not going to be enough. Still hovering right around that 2-second margin. Very hard to say where Larson could change the driving style throughout this course. Maybe close up that gap a little bit now.
Yeah, it's right there. He's just
good drive here.
I think it's right there that he's just losing a little bit of ground. But they're both catching up to Smeaton a little bit each lap.
Just want to take a brief second and say another big thank you to Graham Crackers Racing and Race Ready 3D, a pivotal role in letting us put these shows together for you on these Saturday afternoons. Of course, if you want to be a part of it as well, you can always check out the Patreon link down in the description below. Make a donation to Sim Racing Nation. You can be a part of why we get to put these shows on for you at home. You'll see the names scrolling across the bottom of all the fine folks who have made a contribution to continue this series on these Saturdays. Don't forget to check out all those links down in the description. Of course, if you put in the time and the effort, you too could be out here on track for these top split races. Today's event coming in at a strength of field of 5,412. So one of the bigger ones that we've seen so far this season. We've been mostly in the high 4,000s of the iRating category. A lot of talent being displayed out here today, as it is every single week. On board now with the 8 machine of Silva, running P9 just behind Dan Yang, and Adam Merchant just up ahead of Yang.
See that little off track there, Logan. He ran over the rubble strips and almost pulled him into the grass. We almost had another one retire.
That curbing is just as dangerous as missing a corner here. I've noticed that quite a bit, that it almost seems to reach out and grab some of these cars here, Bradley.
Yeah, once you get on it, it's hard to get off. It's kind of like getting stuck to a wall in a stock car. Once you're on it, pulling that wheel, if you make any, miscalculation or an abrupt movement, the car's going to go around. We've seen it a handful of times already today with Logan Edwards. We got Ranson, Greaves off the racetrack. And a lot of back and forth in the chat about fault here. I don't know how to address it, Logan.
I think we'll probably just let it address itself out there in the YouTube chat. We appreciate all of you taking part in it, settling some sort of debates out there. Here is a look for Silva. Gets a run around the outside of Dan Yang, but Yang with the defensive line diving down into turn 1. He'll hold on to that 7th position, but Silva showing he's got the speed to make the challenge, and about 50 seconds separating those two in favor of Silva on the OTS. Silva attacking again, being able to hold on to it once more. Just being able to hold on to that inside line and make that later braking maneuver into the corner is saving Dan Yang at the current moment. This battle is intense here over the last 2 laps. Silva has done a fantastic job of inching closer and closer as time goes on. I think the biggest factor for him right now is getting that slipstream down the front stretch out of the turn 12. Then it's virtually flat out all the way back to turn number 1. Some left-hand bends here, but it's not enough to force a lift on these cars. Creeping up to about 180 miles an hour once they hit the pit road entrance. 185 by the time they hit the braking zone for turn 1. Silva unable to capitalize on that slipstream. Another one around. That's I.M. Keeman. Down in turn number 2 and 3. He's spun around, still trying to regain it and get corrected back on the track. He's going to lose multiple positions here. Back to now 12th for Keeman. he was 2 spots up ahead. He was in the 6th spot ahead of Adam Merchant, Dan Yang, and Silva. Just loose as he worked his way through the exit of turn 2, spun it around. A little bit too much throttle input there. And one more time, he lost about 7 or 8 seconds just trying to get corrected.
Coming up on 3 to go, Logan, and it's 1.5 seconds. You can see push to pass being used by Byrne in the background there, but they have it down 1.5 roughly. That's doable. That is very doable. And we've watched Larson turn some of the best laps of the race in these last 3.
All 3 drivers that time by in the 114s. James Byrne setting his fastest lap with the OTS available to him. It was a 114.632. Lucas Hand also joins that bracket, the 114.943. Larson was 1/10 of a second faster than JT Smeaton, so that time is coming down. But again, a 1/10 of a second per lap is not going to be enough to challenge for that race lead. I think Larson will have to focus on keeping Byrne behind as he is turning some scorcher laps right now.
I would hang behind Larson until the white flag. I think I would follow him up there, see how close you can get to Smeaton, because if you start racing side by side too early, you could lose that chance at the lead. And I know Smeaton wants these two to start racing side by side.
Larson activating the OTS, coming back up the hill. James Byrne still has about 17 seconds of cooldown remaining, so unable to activate coming up. Larson keeps on the button, working back down the hill. JT Smeaton has finally activated his OTS, down to 130 seconds remaining for him. Lucas Hand under 60 seconds now remaining, but still activated. James Byrne's cooldown has subsided. When will he activate? He does immediately. So through sector 2, the number 2, the number 1, the number 3, all using OTS. We'll go back up the hill this time. There'll be white flag in the air momentarily. 1.4 seconds for the top 2. A half second behind is James Byrne. 7.5 seconds behind is Lucas Hand.
And Smeaton just pulled out another 3/10 here on this lap. I think he's gonna lock it up.
See what kind of a lap time he can set this time by. Last lap around was a 14.558, the fastest lap of the session so far, and a 14.264 for JT Smeaton around. We'll see if he can do it one more time. He'll run out of OTS just short of the checkered flag, but white flag has been waved. He is looking to be in a prime position to take away a win here today in Brazil with a almost 2-second gap over Timothy Freeze Larson. It's going to be the battle for P2 to keep your eyes on here. Will James Byrne have enough left in the tank? Still with 60 seconds remaining on OTS. Larson with less than 3 now. He will not have any extra help coming out of sector 2. This might be the move for James Byrne. Once we get down to turn 12, the final big left-hander. Can he get the run back up the hill to get around Larson? Smeaton, safe as can be. 15 seconds remain on the OTS with a 1.7 second lead. Here we go, turn 14. There's a big gap for Byrne. Does he have enough? The slipstream just ahead of him. Larson looks to have the momentum. James Byrne gets there. He doesn't get the pass completed before the line,
200s.
but only 200ths of a second at the start finish. What a run by the number 2, just coming up short with the fastest lap of the race on the final lap of 114.157, nearly into the 13s for James Byrne. Man, that was as close as you could ask for, Bradley. just shy at the line. 0.028 seconds separated Timothy Freeze-Larson and James Byrne. Both of them, of course, rounding out the podium here today. So we'll have a word with them in just a few minutes. But that would have been the pass of the race, in my opinion, there.
Yeah, you got a huge run. I was impressed that he even got there. And based off of what I saw, he didn't get a very good exit, but he still had that OTS. And right here at the line, this is what it looks like.
About a half of a car length. So close, yet so far for James Byrne. You saw Larson was holding it to the inside as much as possible. He didn't want to give him the run close to the wall. So fantastic positioning there for the two. There is about a 10-mile-an-hour difference between those two cars as they cross the start-finish. JT Smeaton setting the pole on today's event. Got out ahead of the carnage behind on the first 2 laps. Able to hold on to the lead for all 28 laps of the race. Of course, rounding out here in the number 1 spot. Congratulations to Smeaton. Bradley, what do you say we take it to a quick commercial break here? A word from some of our sponsors as we get set up for our post-race show and interviews with our top 3.
JS Racing. We're in the game.
Gentlemen, start your engine!
JS Racing. We're in the game.
And we're back after a quick breather and water break here at Interlagos for the Super Formula B Open Series. What a race we had, a close finish for P2 there. Let's take a look at our finishing results. JT Smeaton, of course, leading every single lap of today's event. Started on the pole, finishes on the top step of the podium, with Timothy Freeze-Larson just edging out James Byrne by 0.028, 2/100ths of a second, separating our second and third place drivers. Lucas Hand in the 6 holds on to 4th after a fierce battle with Rohan Sneer for virtually the entire race, but finally got some separation there. Rohan Sneer rounding out the top 5. Adam Merchant in the 19 had a good start, loses 2 positions back to the 6th spot where he finishes this one out with Dan Yang, the biggest mover of the race, up 6 to claim P7. Felipe Silva in the 8 machine takes home 8th with Jack Spickett. A recovery effort of a lifetime for the number 9. Makes it back to 9th here with Victor Odd in the 14, rounding out the top 10.
11th spot's going to go to Valero Tavares, and the number 4, I Am Keeman, spun out there and lost the top 5. He'll finish in 12th. Felipe Sarkis is going to finish in 13th with Jamie Byrne back in 14th position. Gerard Rowitz is going to finish in 15th with Logan Edwards in 16th position. Daniel Radmalovic is going to finish 17th. Ludwig Ranson in 18th, and Brett Greaves. These cars more than a lap down, 16th through 19th. Early exit here today.
Fortunate end for 4 of our drivers not able to complete to the finish of the race, but able to get out here in the top split. That's nothing to scoff at by any means, especially when you have it up in the 5,000 I rating as a very strong strength of field. And let's have a word with our driver that conquered this strength of field. JT Smeaton will join us in the broadcast booth once I hit the correct button here. There's JT Smeaton joining us here in the booth. JT, you've got Bradley and Logan. You got a copy.
Hello.
Well, a fantastic race from you, my friend. You started on the pole, led all 28 laps, taking home the number 1 spot, of course. Now, we kind of talked about just how difficult this track is, but you seem to conquer it very, very well, setting one of your fastest laps here in the later half of the race, 1:14.263. Tell me a little bit about what it took to come home victorious here in Brazil.
Oh yeah, it was not an easy race for sure. Even though, like when you're out front, still a lot of things to think about. But yeah, I think the start was really crucial. Timothy had a really good start, so that definitely caught my eye a little bit. But yeah, I really just had to just maintain the pace the entire race. I was monitoring the gap between me and the guys behind it was getting smaller, but yeah, I just have to focus on my race, just make sure not to make any mistakes because yeah, it's not an easy race to win, that's for sure.
Well, and you set up this race with the clean air and you get out front like that. You were able to save and conserve when you wanted to. You didn't have to worry about someone breathing down your neck. And so when you're in a scenario like that, we've seen it time and time again. What was your approach? What was your mindset? Hey, I'm starting up front. I'm going to win this thing.
Yes, I think the main thing is just, of course, getting a good start, trying to get a gap on the guys behind. Saving OT was also really crucial. I noticed that the guys behind had used some of theirs at the start of the race, so yeah, it was just really getting to within 3 laps of the finish where I could just dump all of my overtake mode, and that would give me the best shot at getting a big gap. But yeah, it's really just saving the tires, trying not to make mistakes, keep the tires in check, saving OT for the finish because that's very crucial around this track with the long straights. And yeah, really good for overtaking as well. So you have to monitor the slipstream as well because it's very strong, especially on the exit of that last corner. Going onto the front straight, you can gain a lot of time in the slipstream. So it's just trying to keep everybody out of that.
We saw that there at the finish for sure.
Yeah, it was a very long, next to a straightaway, a couple bends, left-hand turns there from turn 12 all the way back to turn 1. But you all did a fantastic job of managing the OTS and the slipstream, just like you mentioned. Of course, coming away victorious for you here today, JT Smeaton. You had a lot of fans out there in the YouTube chat cheering for you. So who do you have to say thanks to or shout out for your race win here at Brazil?
Yeah, big shout out to everyone for the support. I always really appreciate it. Big shout out to my family. I always appreciate their support. And big shout out to the guys at Luke Mansky Racing Esports. Always appreciate their support. And yeah, can't wait for the rest of the season. It's going to be good.
You're absolutely spot on with that. Congratulations once again, JT. We'll see you next week, buddy.
Thank you. Take care, guys.
That'll lead us into our second place finisher. That'll be Timothy Freeze Larson joining us up here in the booth. Timothy Freeze Larson, you got Logan and Bradley in the VSPEED booth. You got a copy.
Yeah, hi guys, you're live and clear.
Well, another great race from yourself. You started a little bit further back than normally, or where we normally see you. Started P5, and you had kind of an uphill battle, no pun intended, with the layout of this track. to try to catch back up. We saw you make your passes early, then it seemed to kind of stall a little bit. You hovered around that 2 to 2.3 second gap up to JT Smeaton and utilizing quite a bit of your OTS that's available for these races early on. What kind of a factor do you think that played later in this race for you?
Um, well, I'll start with the start. So, yeah, the launch, as you could probably see, was phenomenal. But I just tunnel visioned on the driver behind and braked way too late and almost hit JT. And yeah, that's kind of settled the race in a way, where I kind of threw away that opportunity to fight for the win. But yeah, I pushed 200% from start to finish after that, and still made some mistakes, but got past James. And yeah, as you said, the gap kind of hovered around that 2.5, maybe a bit more second mark for a good amount of laps, and then it started coming down a bit. So maybe JT was struggling with tires, or you just pulled it down a bit. But yeah, I caught up a second or so, which I'm pretty happy with, to be honest, considering the start. But yeah, I gave my all and had to push the pass, and yeah, it wasn't enough in the end to catch up. And yeah, at the very end, I didn't pay attention to fuel, so I ran out at the end. So was super lucky to just barely keep second.
Well, and we go to the final lap there. You had James Byrne about half a second behind, maybe a little bit more coming off that last section of the racetrack. You had run out of OTS. James Byrne, a rocket ship at the line, 300ths of a second. Did you think he passed you? What was your mind there?
Oh, just come on, come on, come on, keep it. So yeah, super relieved and happy to keep that second place, considering the lack of fuel. But yeah, I just gave anything in that race, and it is what it is.
Out of OTS, out of fuel at the start finish line, still coming away with P2. Luck might have been in your favor today. Timothy Freeze Larson, who do you have to say thanks to or shout out for your or not victory, but your great run here in Interlagos?
Yeah, it's gonna have to be any friends and family watching as usual. But yeah, this race and this effort really goes out to Hyperion Racing, because this was my last race as part of that team. So yeah, they meant a lot to me as a person and as a driver. And yeah, I'm super thankful for what they have done for me. And yeah, I'm super excited to see what they can do in the future.
Well, congratulations on P2. Congratulations with a very successful run with Hyperion Racing. And it sounds like we'll see you next week under a new team banner, possibly.
Yeah, for sure. We'll see you then.
That is almost a shock to me there, Bradley. I wasn't quite expecting that news to drop here today, but be very interesting to see who Timothy Freeze Larson's choose to run with for the remainder of the Super Formula B Open Series. But we've got James Byrne standing by. He's ready to have a chat for his P3 finish here today. James Byrne, you've got Logan and Bradley up here in the VSPEED booth. You got a copy.
Good afternoon. Hi, guys.
Well, you had a fantastic start to the race. You obviously qualified in P2. We saw a fantastic run at the very end of the race, with your fastest lap being the white flag lap, a 114.157 on the board for you, and just shy of 3/100ths of a second as you were able to be just as fast as possible out of turn 12, back up the hill to the start finish, nearly getting around Timothy Freeze Larson. But I'm curious, we saw you right there the entire time. The gap never really seemed to crest over the half-second margin between you and Larson. The opportunities for passing, did they just not present themselves for you to take that P2 spot a little bit earlier on in the race?
Yeah, that's about right. And I didn't want to pass him when we still had a chance of catching JT. But at the end, I just couldn't get there enough. So yeah.
Well, let's rewind to the beginning of this race. You started in second position and got the overtake later on. It was about lap 9 or 10, I believe, when Larson got back around. So what was your mindset there? Do I have to chase, play cat and mouse? You said you were trying to avoid too many battles to not lose ground, but at what point did you say, okay, now I have to go?
Um, about around lap 25, I enabled push to pass in the hope of passing Timothy. And at that moment, I thought that he was about to get me out of his draft. So I thought I might as well just stay in there, stay in the draft, and hope for the best. Unfortunately, enabling push to pass meant that I had to delay my enabling of push to pass at the end because there's a 100-minute cooldown. So I think it was probably a mistake in the end. But yeah, I just wanted to stay with him and look for any chances, which never arose, sadly.
Well, we
You
saw that
nearly got there.
opportunity right there. It's on the
Yeah.
screen for everybody right now. It was so close, 2/300ths of a second.
So close and yet so far, right? And I didn't want to do anything risky, right? Like dive down because that could take us both out. But in the end, it was a good race. Nice.
There's nothing wrong with playing it safe and coming home with a podium finish, regardless of how the rest of the race went. So congratulations to you on P3 here, James Byrne. Who do you have to say thanks to or shout out that might be watching at home?
Thanks to the guys on Discord, Mark Ponick. He was helping me out a bit and just telling me like when Timothy enabled push to pass or if he made any mistakes. And then to my dad as well, and to our teammate Gerhard, and to you guys for broadcasting.
Well, James, thank you for the kind words, and we'll catch up with you next week once we take this series out to Road Atlanta.
Yep, see you guys then.
Well, Bradley, what a race we had on our hands. I don't think we've seen a finish that close for the podium positions in about a season of broadcasting this race. What were your thoughts about taking the Super Formula 23 series down to Brazil?
Oh, it was a fantastic race. Again, like you said at the beginning of the broadcast, a very technical racetrack. And, you know, even though we didn't see a challenge for the lead today, we did see a challenge for what we saw the last few weeks. You know, Timothy Friese-Larsen has been dominant, but starting a little bit deeper in the field. Of course, a team change was communicated to us there and some things going on. Maybe he had his mind on other stuff before he came into this one. James Byrne, he came to play. I saw Smeaton lead every single lap. I think that tracks like this, especially ones that maybe drivers have a little bit more experience with, they tend to create a better atmosphere, and I think it's going to help maybe the confidence of Smeaton. We haven't seen him really have that breakout season yet.
And of course, too, we're not seeing Jansu Foster in the field as consistently here as well, so always have to keep an eye out for that name. But next week, we're going to take the series out to Road Atlanta. That'll be our only, well, I apologize, that'll be one of two races here held in North America. Circuit of the Americas will be week 11 there. So looking forward to both of those races, a lot more familiar with the layouts of those tracks. So again, you can find all of this action right here, same time, same place, every Saturday for the next couple of weeks. Big shout out to Graham Crackers Racing and, of course, Race Ready 3D for being a major part of why we get to put this together for you. And, of course, Sim Racing Nation being the tie that binds it all together. For everybody behind the scenes at Sim Racing Nation, and, of course, everybody behind the scenes at VSPEED, Adam Baker, Bradley Cooper, of course, as our producer and co-host, Morgan Cook, Eddie Smith, all of our other fine commentators and producers. My name is Logan Threlkeld. We appreciate you for joining in with us here on this Saturday. And, of course, Dougie Beard for that fantastic camera pack that we get to show off all the cool angles of these cars throughout the course of a race. We hope you have a great rest of your weekend, and we hope we see you next week in Road Atlanta. Good day, everybody.